Welcome back, Boys and Ghouls Film Review here, folks. I'm your host, Sarah Stephenson, and this is my co-host, Mike Stephenson.
Hi, guys.
So, Boys and Ghouls, tonight we'll be reviewing that classic...
not a classic, but we think it's a classic movie.
Classic drama fantasy is describing it.
Well, classic romantic drama fantasy. It's a damn good movie, but it's an old one, isn't it?
Yeah. So, it's called Death Takes a Holiday, and it was done in 1934.
There was a remake in the 70s using the same name, using the same theme, but this was the original one, which got a lot of good accolades by the film critics at that time. And if you like old movies, and don't mind the fact that it is, that's what I'm looking for. I wouldn't say the acting is a bit stagey and whatever, because it actually came from a stage play. It's
True.
a damn good story, and it's a damn good watch. Okay, so that's why we chose it. Like we said many times before, we do mainly horror, sci-fi, and fantasy, but we also drag in the odd good movie that we think people should have a look at.
Yeah. Well, this does fall in the fantasy genre, if you will.
Well, sort of fantasy, but
fantasy romance, obviously.
It also falls under an interesting movie that we think, especially younger people nowadays, probably wouldn't know this movie exists.
That's true. I mean, it's remarked by some people mention it here and there, say in conversation, but then you don't bother knowing whether it's a real movie or not.
Well, yeah, another movies and other TV shows have actually alluded to the same film script, like Meet Joe Black. That was a take off the same story. And some TV series have used it, and just in different episodes use this theme about death coming in and integrating of human beings for a while. And
I remember one of those anthology TV series episodes where a creature comes to a different world disguised as a human being and tries to mingle with the inhabitants in that area. So this is false under.
Well, yeah, that's an alien or something or other, isn't it?
Yeah, I wasn't sure if it's an alien or
whatever
supernatural being.
Anyway, here we go, friends.
Sure.
Okay, produced by E. Lloyd Sheldon and Emmanuel Cohen, but directed by Mitchell Leisen Leisen. Now, interesting. The screenplay was done by Maxwell Anderson and Gladys Lehman. That was based on Death Takes a Holiday, the play that was written by Walter Ferris. And that play was actually based on a book called, it must be Italian, La Morte in Vacanza, by Alberto Casella. So it sounds like it was an Italian novel, possibly, and La Morte, the death on vacation. Yeah. So they've taken the names almost literally and taken that storyline, made a stage play, and then a screenplay. So interesting. Now, getting on to my favourite, the box office and budget. I've got no idea. I can't find any information. Bit on the old side, going back to 1934.
Yeah, I imagine they didn't keep records of budget
they may have, but it's not
or box office money.
Yeah,
whatever.
It's just too far down the track. I mean, if you got to think about it, 1934. How long ago is that, Chubbles?
Too many years.
Well, it's 2022 now, so it's a long time ago. A long time ago. Yeah. Okay, here we go. Cast. I won't go for everybody, but
just the leads will be good.
I'm going to. Hello. Now, the main guy, the guy playing Death, is played by Fredric March. Now, Fredric March was a good actor in his time, way back when. He played a lot of leading men roles in different movies. He was a damn fine actor. Now, Evelyn Venable, she plays Grazia. She's the lady he falls in love with, and she also falls in love with him. I won't go through everybody else by their roles, but I'll just list the names of the actors. They had a Guy Standing, Catherine Alexander, Gail Patrick, Helen Westley, Kathleen Howard, Kent Taylor, and Henry Travers. Now, I think Henry Travers has been in quite a few movies, a lot of old movies.
No doubt.
Yeah, more of a character type actor, I think. Anyway, I can't think of anything else I want to say before Sarah gets into it. So, okay, take it away, Sarah.
So we open at the beginning where our group of people have just returning from a big celebration in town. I don't know what it is, to be honest. If it's in Italy, which I think it is.
Any excuse for a party.
Yeah. So
Could have been market day, fishing fleet came in.
Italian Mardi Gras.
Italian Mardi Gras. Whatever.
Sorry. Anyway, they then get into their separate cars and they race each other on a very windy cliff road.
Along a cliff face. Yeah.
And Grazia, that's the name. Grazia. She notices a shadow following their car and it's everyone keeps thinking it's probably just trees forming near the car, but
shadows.
It's not.
It's following the car.
Somehow, it's following the car in very closely, and eventually, the second car, which has
the older people,
which had say a fewer people, they end up running into a flower vendor.
A flower vendor's cart.
Cart and his donkey.
Now this is the funny part.
Okay.
They hit the cart and destroy the cart, and the flower vendor was unhurt, and the donkey wasn't hurt. That's a good start to the movie because Death is not taking any new customers at the moment. Yeah.
So we can go to their nice little villa by the whatever, and it's a nice place. And I'm not going to tell you. Grazia. Boyfriend wants to get stuck into getting married to her.
She's procrastinating.
Yeah, she's...
Oh, yeah, I know. I love you, but...
I don't feel...
I've had that when I was a young fellow. Yeah, you're a nice guy.
Everyone is pressuring her to get married or die. Or something.
Yeah, make an honest man of him and make an honest... Yeah, whatever stuff.
Everyone is pressuring her, saying, you can be ready in a month, they're wealthy, they can afford it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's talking about going on honeymoon into Egypt and Italy and other groovy places. And I'd marry him for the big holiday.
And the father-in-law to Grazia says, we can make a nice villa by the ocean, on the hilltop for you and your hubby, and we can visit regularly. But I guess she feels pressured, and she feels like she needs to find something.
Yeah.
She doesn't know what.
Satisfied with...
She doesn't know what at the moment.
She wasn't satisfied with her lot. How's that?
Yeah, of course, while she's in the garden thinking over this, she screams. She sees something that really frightens her. And she says it was a shadow or something that's touched her that's icy cold. So she and her mother stay the night, and while they lock up the house trying to make sure it wasn't a prowler or something... They think it's a prowler. I don't know. We don't think so.
They don't know. It's hinted they think it's a prowler. However, we think her boyfriend's father
somehow
thinks something's different.
I'll call him the Duke. That's his title.
His name's Duke Lambert.
Yeah, I'll call him the Duke, obviously.
Yeah, that's Guy Stanley. He's an older fellow.
So, as they're shutting up the house, we then see him witness a dark figure approaching him.
And you can see straight through him. Ooh.
And this figure is Death himself. And he explains to the Duke, I'm not on my regular visit tonight.
I'm not taking anybody.
Yeah, I just want to find out. I just want to visit and understand, why do men fear me?
Oh, yeah, mankind. Yeah.
Mankind, why they fear my coming when it comes time for them to go.
Yeah, so you want to find out. Where's one with the meaning of life or other?
Well, it is an interesting question, Mike. I mean, we all question why we fear the next world.
Well, I don't.
Like, why do we always fear that part to the end of our lives? It's a scary thought when you think about it.
The point is, we won't get into philosophy just now. Maybe after the movie.
Okay, so he suggests that he'll come as one of his guests, and he says
stay for a few days.
Yeah, he suggests to go being disguised as a prince named Prince Sirki, I think he was.
Who was supposedly well known to the Duke.
Yeah, and according to Death, this prince is long dead. I think in the the play, the musical,
recently dead.
suggested that the prince committed suicide.
He'd already passed.
Yeah. So anyway,
so he had no chance of him popping in.
So he dashes off, and a few minutes later, his son shoots 2 bullets into the unknown figure. Just so you know, the Duke shot at death at first, but somehow his gun didn't
work. It went clickety-clickety.
Didn't clickety-clickety.
No bangety-bangety. Yeah.
It's a bit odd when you think about it.
Well, Death can do anything he likes. He's a supernatural being, isn't he?
Yeah, and the Duke explains this was just a messenger indicating that Prince Sirki was coming this very evening. And so his guests all assemble in the lounge room, and there we meet Prince Sirki as Death at the front door.
Dressed up as a very nice, fine gentleman.
Yes, very good looking.
Well, Fredric March wasn't horribly looking. He wasn't Quasimodo, was he?
And of course, two of the girls who were staying with the Duke, I don't know if they're his daughters or whatever. It doesn't really have mention or marriage.
They did mention their relationship.
They just mentioned that they had guests over, yada yada yada.
Not too much of a backstory in there, was there?
A lot of, and when you look at the old days, people used to stay at people's places. It doesn't matter if you're related or anything. You're just friends, close friends.
When you're rich.
When you're wealthy, you're allowed to invite friends over. Doesn't matter if they're young, old, or in between. Doesn't matter so much. Anyway, moving on.
Let's go to the room for a couple of weeks.
Those two girls fall in love with him instantly.
Well, they're falling in. Let's just say that their hormones are galloping really crazy.
Yeah. Their name's Rhoda and
Alda?
Alda. Yeah. And they're attracted to him, and he, in turn, is not really attracted to them so much. He just thinks they're pretty, good-looking, and
flirtatious.
And very flirty.
But Grazia, she's different.
Yeah. When he sees her for the first time, before he transformed into the prince, he said that he talked about her for a bit, saying he was amongst her, and that was the thing she saw in the darkness, or seen, or felt in the darkness.
He saw her, and he was attracted to her.
Yeah. Anyway,
in the nicest possible way.
Yeah. He then takes her hands, and as he's walking up the stairs, we see him stepping back
and looking over his shoulder
at her, and then at the top of the stairs, he gives her a courteous bow, and she bows back like in a.
Remember, Death hasn't had anything to do with human beings. Well, live ones anyway, and so he doesn't really know how to react on a social level.
Yeah. Later the next morning, he sees her in the garden picking roses, and they're all fresh roses because they're not dead or anything like that. So they're all in bloom, and that's a good sign. And then the prince approaches Grazia, who is picking flowers, and he remarked that she's a princess, at least to him anyway.
Yeah.
Because he's formed an attachment, and for his nice gentlemanness, she gives him a flower. And this is really relevant to the story.
He recoils a bit, saying, things die when I touch them. And she put this little flower in his lapel.
Yeah, it's an unopened rose.
And it didn't die.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Somehow his human beingness has, I guess it's repelled from,
he wasn't working on holidays. He wasn't telling anybody. Yeah.
Yes. Soon enough, the two other girls I mentioned earlier, they want to make a contest of their affections for the prince. So
who can get him first?
Who gets him first? So they dress in their finest pretty stuff, and they make a show of it by approaching him at breakfast. And of course, everyone is in their best moods. Of course, the Duke is trying to keep his mood up.
Because he knows who his guest is. But
yeah, of course, one of these older guests, what's his name? The older gentleman that was staying with them?
The Baron Caesari, or whatever.
He's quite cheerful, he thinks it's co-connected to the prince's arrival, feeling that he feels energized. He feels like he's a new man of sorts, and he's an old man in this movie too.
Yeah, older than me. Yes, he has to get a bit ancient.
Yeah, well, anyway, so Grazia and her mum, they're heading home because they were not going to stay overnight or stay.
Only so because Grazia wasn't feeling well, and Death was a little bit annoyed that everyone was supposed to stay here.
Yeah.
No one was supposed to leave.
Yeah, and he formed an attachment to her.
Yeah. But it was explained by the Duke that they're only an overnight guest.
Yeah. So
he allowed them to go.
So the next 3 days, this is 3 days, just so you know. He spends as much time with the group as possible, including the two girls. And most of the time he's enjoying himself. Other times he's like yawning.
Yeah, you can't bore him. I mean, they're just empty-headed
women
who just were flirtatious and looking for a lover or a partner or a potential husband or whatever. It had nothing to inspire him.
Yeah, and when he goes to the casino, this is interesting, he kind of wins at the game.
Yeah.
Like,
I wonder if he had friends in high places or low places helping out.
I don't know. Anyway, by the time he was going to roll again, the guy in the game box tells him, guess what, we don't have any more, we can't give you any more.
No, we can't extend your gambling because we've got a limit, a house limit.
Yeah.
So he's okay, I'll finish up here, and he just handed the tips over to the people around him, say, you play with these.
He then approaches the Baron and tells him, well, you guys are stuck in a crowded room playing these games, but while outside it's all beauty and beautiful. Yeah. And of course, the Baron says they do it for the fun of it and trying to fill the time they have there. Yeah. And of course, the Deaf is trying to search for something. He's already searched through it by experiencing war and stuff, and he's inexperienced about love and stuff.
He doesn't know about that sort of stuff.
The Baron says, advise him, only the lips of a lovely woman will change that.
Yeah, and she was lovely too.
Of course, Rhoda tries to dip her hand in to please the prince, but somehow his appealing ways soon alienate her to go away.
Yeah.
And the next day, this is the final day, I should mention. They kind of skip ahead throughout this movie, so it's not really important at every single moment of every single scene.
It's you don't have to say, oh, we went to the toilet, oh, we went over there and stood under a tree, you know.
Yeah. So the next day, it's the third day, and the Duke has arranged a special party, a farewell thing.
Yeah, like a bit of a ball, cotillion, something or other. Yeah.
Rhoda has gone off to please Italian guy and another guy, I don't know his name, and no longer pleased with the Duke, I should mention. So, but her friend Alda is still intrigued by him in the worst possible way. And when they are left alone for at least a bit, he tries to give her more than what she bargained for, in my opinion.
A bit more insight. Looking into his eyes, she saw the real him.
Yeah, and she saw it more than she ever feared.
She feared death.
Yeah, of course, the Duke and his son were not too pleased by this, so you should just F off and all that stuff.
Leave us alone, go away, blah, blah, blah. Yeah,
of course,
that sort of stuff.
Grazia,
testosterone-filled stuff.
Grazia soon arrives, and before that, the Duke confronts Death, and Death says he feels like he needs someone to die, and because he feels like he feels like he has an empty existence in his life. While he's living his life for 3 days, while these guys they'll be living for
he mentioned that he's going to be.
Years.
I've got 3 days. I die tonight, or his existence finishes tonight on the human plane, and they got the rest of their lives to live out. Yeah,
so it's a really sad.
Make a comparison. I got a 3-day life, and they got something like a 70 or 80 year life. That wasn't fair.
80 or 100, depending on who you're talking to.
100? I don't think 100. It'll be a wrinkly old thing. It'll be Santa Island.
It depends on the individual and your health, and yada yada.
Oh my God, now I make it.
Yeah. Soon enough, he meets up with Grazia, and they dance for a bit, and he tries his absolute hardest to behave.
He's very charming.
I don't think he wants to reveal too much information, because he's starting to realize love means you don't sort of have to.
You don't have to hurt. You don't want to hurt anybody, and things that would be up close and personal and protective, and all those other good positive things. They're all new to him.
Yeah, and she really likes him. She feels like his voice is mesmerizing, and it makes her feel so drawn to him. Drawn to him in a nice musical sense, like she feels so lost in his voice. Yeah, that's how I see it.
He got a slight European accent, not as bad as Bela Lugosi, but Smoothie. Yeah.
Anyway, her boyfriend arrives and he tries to comfort her and tells her that to let him shadow her for the rest of the evening, if that's
He
the
wanted
word.
to protect her from the evil count, or no, whatever it is, Prince, whatever, yeah. Prince Caspian. No, it's Sirki. Yeah.
But she says that she's fine, and she feels cold, and she tells him to go fetch her cloak or something.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
And then Prince Sirki approaches her with a black cloak of his own.
Yeah.
And he,
funny that. We didn't have it earlier.
Yeah, he then leads her into the gardens, and while the night was ending, the guests were leaving, departing. The ones who are staying stick around, and this is where the Duke reveals the horrible truth, or at least half the truth. Yeah. And while this is happening, Sirki and Grazia are in the gardens by the pool, and he asks her about how does she know why he's here, and she says knew the answer. Like she knew that he was holding life in his hands, and he's afraid of the beauty around it. And she feels like he's finally found someone that knows why he's there.
Yes.
Yeah. And he feels sad that he's going to leave that very night. And she says, "I wish I can go with you." And
interesting.
And he's he's worried that he doesn't want to take her with him because he doesn't feel it's right. And yet Grazia feels
but at the same time, he's in love with her. He doesn't want to lose her either.
Yeah.
He's at a crossroads, an impasse or something or other, yeah.
Death itself is like, it's in between when you think about it. Yeah. It's neither heaven, hell, it's in between.
He's in limbo, in his own little personal limbo.
Yeah, something like that.
Limbo?
Can
you get under the pole?
I think it's more than limbo. I think it's just in between, It's neither...
That is limbo.
It's neither. It's neither.
Okay, I'll put him in purgatory then, how's that, man? He's been tortured a bit.
No, I just feel like it's in neither area. It's
a
world. It's a separate world to death and hell. I mean, to heaven and hell and living. That's how I feel about it sometimes.
Okay, he's somewhere.
Okay, so he says that he has to leave and return to his kingdom, and Grazia says, "I'll be very sad that if you go away." And he wants 1 hour to hold her and
be with her before he leaves.
Meanwhile, while this is happening, the group is assembled and they're all worried about Grazia's safety.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, in the beginning when Sirki first came, he made the Duke promise that he wouldn't tell anybody who he was and why he was there.
Exactly so.
Otherwise, there'd be severe penalties to pay.
Well, his penalty is I will kill Prince Sirki and return as deaf.
Yeah. But anyway, and take some people with him.
Yeah. So eventually, Prince Sirki arrives, aka Deaf, and he tells them, "You told them all that stuff." And he's so angry.
Well, he had to tell them to stop annoying him. Going after Sirki and doing whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Eventually,
his motives are honourable.
Everyone asks him to hand back Grazia because she's young and
she belongs with the living.
She belongs to the living.
Blah, blah,
and
blah.
her mother asks Dev to please give her back her daughter, but she doesn't understand that if Grazia goes with him, it's not, she won't be in pain or...
Yeah, well, he said that, but the point is, in the end, he just said, okay, I'll leave it up to her.
Yeah.
I will leave her here. And then she says, I don't want to stay here, I want to go with you.
Yeah.
And what do you do then?
Well, anyway, everyone asks, even Grazia's boyfriend asks him to give her back to him, even though Grazia's heart is now onto someone.
We said that, but what did Sirki do now?
He goes to get Grazia, and Grazia eventually says that she's happy with him, and she's found the thing that she's been searching for in her mind. And
what did he do then? He showed his real self to everybody.
Yes, he did.
His dark, shadowy thing. It's creepy.
Of course, everyone repels,
except for
Grazia, and she says she's always seen him like this.
Love saw through the illusion.
And so he and her, they are guided into the light.
And they went up the stairs, and there's a big flashing light, and they both disappeared, saying that she's gone on to live with him in his domain. And no pain, no anxiety, nothing.
In the musical,
to live in love forever,
or the play, I should say. Grazia would have passed out on the floor, where they stood. But I think this is a better way of displaying the story. They couldn't do that easily on stage. I know, but it's just a lot more romantic, and where she's not longer part of this world, and her body's not there, but she's gone off like the way, in a nice romantic sense.
Well, today's I just use green screen to a fade out.
But I think it's a nice sense. Instead of just looking like she's just dead on the ground, she's gone off to the world, neither dead nor alive, is what I'm saying.
And there's no body left. Ew.
It's kind of romantic, like she's not dead, she's still alive, technically, but not there. That's how I see it, in a sense.
Bugger. Ta-da! Fade to black, the end. Yay!
Yeah. I gotta admit, when they open the movie with the credits, it's quite different, guys. Instead of the usual, it's just like if you were just doing it as an opening for a TV series, where, not opening for a TV series.
Yeah, they still roll with the footage and have some animated footage of the person, then put their name under them instead of just doing the ordinary credits. With a still behind it and stuff. Yeah. It's something different. It was different, yes.
It is different. Of course, it's a bit sad that being the, what's the term for a main actor on a poster? Being the main
star. The main poster. I don't know
the term like the box office, the one that gets the most credibility in the movie.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm referring. I just meant like he's the main star in this movie, and his name didn't appear at the opening credits.
Because he's supposed to sneak in later on. Mm-hmm. That's it. They actually went through the people in the crowd, which is part of the family group. But he wasn't part of the family group in the opening. So
because they all were throughout the movie. They all appeared throughout the movie.
Exactly.
And played the main characters in the project.
Little family group. Actually, it's marvelous what you can do in a basic set. And once I say basic set, apart from the marketplace, all right?
Right.
And an image of them in a motorboat or something or other, and the car drive back to the villa or chateau or whatever they're living in. Everything was done in about 1 or 2 rooms in this mansion, in the building they're living in, wasn't it? Yeah, not too much location shoots and stuff.
Yeah,
money wasn't wasted, and it was kept short.
Yeah, and most of the time,
straight to the point. Yeah,
and most of the time they did stock footage here and there for a little bit of stock footage for certain scenes.
Maybe, but they kept the basic. I mean, you don't have to have 50 million locations in a movie to make it interesting.
True.
So they did it in a bit. But the market, the drive back, which is a couple of minutes, out on the road there, or pretend.
And
the motorboat and the garden scene.
And the villain. I'm a villa, sorry.
But the outside, in the garden. But inside, in about 2 rooms. Mm-hmm. 2 rooms, yeah. The big foyer in the dining room, I think. That sort of stuff. And maybe something like a den type thing, or a parlour or something, So, it very easily handled, just move around. Big sound stage, maybe a lot of matte paintings behind it. I don't really know. It could have been a real villa for all I know. Yeah.
Who knows?
I was trying to figure it out.
But I think back then they had to control the atmosphere.
Yeah, they want to borrow the boss's house. Someone, can we borrow a house, make a movie? Yeah, okay, not a problem. Yeah. Anyway, let's go on to reception. Interesting. Now,
this will be good.
Now, the critics back in those days
at least they were
had
favourable.
Different paradigms. Paradigms, that's a good word, isn't it?
At least it's favourable when you think about this movie.
Sure. Now, it had different paradigms. I mean, things changed over decades. We became desensitized to some things. We became more sophisticated, whatever. But these were simpler times, early days of film, and when I say filming, I'm talking about more of the talkie filmings, because this was not long, first 10 years after the talkies came in.
Yeah, this is, what was the date again?
1934,
1934.
yeah.
So
yeah.
Many years
it was
after.
one of the better movies of its day in the early days of the talkies, and a lot of these people were taken off the stage to fill the roles of the actors, and some of the sound stages they use look like stages. So
it's amazing that so many. I think not all the actors from the silent era were brought back to do the non-stuff.
Problem is when you had the silent actors, and I'll use a good example here.
Okay.
Rudolph Valentino.
Okay.
The lover, he was a sheik, and all the females back in those days say, "Oh, isn't he wonderful?" Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Problem is,
Okay.
I don't know 100% for sure, but he had a very heavy Italian accent.
Oh.
He might have had a high squeaky voice too, I do not know. But the problem is, when the sound came in, the whole image was shattered because the voice didn't suit the image it was portraying.
Illusion shattered, guys.
No, the point is that so he couldn't go from the silent movies into the talkies for that reason. He didn't have a good speaking voice. Mm-hmm. So all the males, female actors in the silents had to either have a good voice to go into the talkies, or hang up their acting license and get a real job.
Yeah.
Or retire.
I gotta admit, it is kind of sad that how many actors may have lost their jobs during the talkies days.
But you look at it, some people stayed in and went from the silent to the talkies and stayed in the film industry and still made good movies.
Yeah, look at Charlie Chaplin. He was struggling, trying to continue the silent era stuff, and while everyone keeps telling you maybe you should start doing talkies, considering everyone else is doing talkies.
But his thing was doing silent movies as a little tramp. And that was a problem.
Because, truth, as you may have read in the past, he came from Europe, and dear old the tramp throughout the movies, he would never talk, then we'd never know whether he was American or in English.
Well, it doesn't matter. You see, okay, I'll get on to any new country. Mm-hmm. And America's not that really old.
Yeah, true.
Australia's younger. Now you have to look at things like who settled there. Australia had English, then Chinese came out, Italians came out. Some Germans came out after the war, so you would have had a lot of different dialects and accents and whatever. Now, America would have been the same. They would have had people came from Europe and England and maybe Asians and whatever. So they would have had a lot of people.
Yeah. Anyway, let's read the rest.
No, I was going to say, to have an accent back in those days wouldn't have been a bad thing after all, because a lot of them would have been migrants, immigrants, or whatever. Yeah.
Anyway, let's read the reviews.
We go. But you're the one who took us off track. Okay?
Sorry.
Right, reception. Okay, main line at the top. This says the film was an enormous critical success.
Sweet.
Enormous. Hold the words in your head. Enormous. Now, problem is the critics loved it.
See?
Box office didn't like it.
Boo.
Now, only reason being the material. It was Death Takes a Holiday. Now, that would not necessarily have gone down well for a lot of sensitive people. So, not my type of movie.
I guess it would not knock your socks off, that title.
Well, that title, it says, hey, Fun in the Sun with Dick and Dora might have actually made a lot more money, but it would have been a shit movie. Sorry.
Okay.
But
don't swear.
The title probably drove people away from watching the movie.
Yeah, but I guess those who may have actually seen the play and knew what to expect, then well,
But I'm talking about the average person in the street who walks down the street and sees, oh, what's on at the theatre this week, love? And we go there and say, oh, Death Takes Holiday. Oh, that sounds scary. Let's go and see something nice like a comedy. Yeah, and that's it. And they go to the theatre.
I guess that would drive people away.
That's the problem.
All right, go on.
But just about everybody had something positive to say about the movie, Fredric March, the whole lot. I won't go through all of them, but that goes to show that the critics got it right. Because this movie is still available today to watch. It's still a good movie to watch if you don't mind the old style of movie.
Do you think that the old reviewers were the ones who said nasty reviews for when movies started changing hands and being different?
I don't know. Some people said, talkies will never catch on.
That's true.
Hello. Guess what? They've been talking ever since. It didn't go backwards. When colour came along, we'll never catch on. And then said everybody, after a transition period of a couple of years, everyone went colour.
Bingo.
So, it's always going to be changed. And CGI came in. It's a passing fad. No, it's not. It's there to help out, to make the experience better.
And avoid bad weather.
Stormy weather. No, wait. Okay.
Well, there's a possibility. I mean, CGI does help us from going from...
green screen is your best friend. We could do a movie in my garage here, my office here, my office garage, and we could put a backdrop behind us. We could be in Italy. We could be in Rome. We could be anywhere we like, sitting next to the Grand Canyon. How would you know?
Well, have you ever seen those... Well, when you look at those old movies, like those old... some of those old movies, they always used a green screen.
Well, I don't know the old movies that use green screen. I think they use reprojection.
Yeah, they used the projector behind
the screen.
The screen, where the person would walk through it and pretend that they're in a crowd scene when actually they're not in a crowd scene, or in the car driving down a road.
And you've got the car stuff, and that's just a reverse screen behind them showing the car.
Yeah. It seems it seems like it was an ongoing thing until they decided they fixed it up in much years later.
Yes, it's not what you know.
Although it's now that we've gotten to CGI using green screens, we're still doing that sort of effect now, but it's improved over the years.
We now we just layer it instead of rear screening it and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, I did say I mentioned a bit before about remakes and whatever. Here's a bit of a list of some things. A 1-hour radio adaptation of the film aired on Cecil B. DeMille's Lux Radio Theatre in 1937. It starred Fredric March. He was talked into reprising his role as Death. And his wife, actress Florence Eldridge, played Grazia. Now, interesting. So it made it onto the the radio theatre. Universal Studios acquired the rights to the film in 1962, and they made a remake in 1971.
I read somewhere Katharine Hepburn was offered the role, but either the studio turned it down or she turned it down.
I don't know. I don't care.
I'm just telling you.
Anyway, so the remake was very similar, but the only thing I can think, I haven't seen a remake recently. I think what actually happened is the leading lady actually was in a car accident and was supposed to have died, but didn't die. Is that right? And then Death came there and he was hanging around, and it indicated that she actually died and he's going to take it with him. So a bit of a twist on the story, but still basically the same thing. The film was remade by Universal again in 1998 as Meet Joe Black, with starring Brad Pitt, Claire Forlani, and Anthony Hopkins. So it's a good theme, and everyone keeps referring back to it because it's a damn good story. It's been on off Broadway, everything else, and it's even stuck into episodes of on TV. In May 2006, an episode of the television drama Medium also builds on the concept of death portrayed by a man in season 2. The season 2 episode is similarly titled, being called "Death Takes a Policy."
Yeah, it seems that for sometimes a TV show would use the old title movies as a bit of a title, here and there.
So it's been an ongoing theme that they keep going back to because it's a good story and it really spurs on the imagination, and that's why we like it. And we think those of you, especially you young and little whippersnappers out there who may not have ever seen this movie, if you don't want to buy a copy, it's available through Amazon and eBay
and you can check it out on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. But obviously, the quality is not as good on YouTube. Being an old movie, I'm not against saying you might be able to download the torrent for it. But if you like it, go and buy a copy of it, add to your library. But it's a good watch. It tells a good story if you don't mind the old style of black and white movies.
Yeah, there's also the 1971 version out there on YouTube. You can go ahead and watch too if you wanted to.
It's not too bad in comparison. Yeah.
I mean, it's a telly movie, as Mike said.
It's a telly movie, yeah. So again, of being 1971, it's a few years old. You may not be able to get a copy of it easily anyway. So you grab a torrent of both of you if you want to test it out. But if you like it, go and buy one and add it to your library.
I do like the 1971. Mike doesn't like it very much, but I think it adds a little bit more interest to the story.
I like the original one because it's sort of like the original Frankenstein of Boris Karloff. Everybody copied it. That was it. So, what the original was the best, as far as I'm concerned. They might have had slightly better filming techniques, but the acting wasn't any different.
True.
Stories got a bit lamer as they went on, unless you get things like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein with Robert De Niro, that wasn't a bad movie, and the one, The Bride. That was a good.
That was a good one.
Type. Yeah, there's some good ones, but when you said let's do another Frankenstein movie and use the same title script, let's get the dust and cobwebs off it and test what can we do with it.
But you got to admit though, with time, and I'm saying this very kindly to the audience out there, if you ever think about doing a remake, I always think do not rush a remake. I mean, if the original was good back in the 1930s, whatever, if you had something in mind for years later, I would say just take the time to think about what you're going to be putting together for it.
Well, Lisa, I'll take one step further. If you are going to do a remake, I'm not talking about a reboot, a remake of a movie. Okay, if you can't make it better, don't bother doing it.
There's that too.
Now remember when they're that Bob Hope movie, the Ghostbusters or whatever it was?
No, Ghost Breakers.
Ghost Breakers. Yeah. Now, Ghost Breakers with Bob Hope and I think, what's the name?
I can't remember. But I know Bob Hope,
I
obviously.
can't remember. The studios made a really good movie using Bob Hope and I think Claudette Colbert or something like that. I can't remember. And it was a really good movie. And then the same studio or another studio about 10 years later wanted to put Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis in the same movie, splitting up Bob Hope's dialogue between the two of them. And they didn't want to do the movies because we can't do it as good as the Bob Hope version.
Yeah.
And they were told they had to do it because they had a contract with the studio.
As I said to you guys before, that maybe once or twice, every comedy person is different. Like Don Adams is different from Jerry Lewis.
Yeah, exactly right.
Or Robin Williams is different from Jim Carrey. Yeah. Or and the list goes on and on.
And someone that has done a really good job on the first movie, and you can't do any better.
Yeah, don't force it.
Find another script. There's so many stories out there.
I'm only lucky that the other stuff that Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis did together were a lot better.
They did a lot of good movies. Actually, being fair to Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis, I enjoyed a lot of their movies when they were fresh movies and not copying something else. Because the guys who wrote the story, the screenplay, the directors, everything was fresh. When you got a title, I think, let's do a remake. Well, then it gets... Yeah, and that's it. But then Jerry Lewis went along and made some damn fine movies by himself, and Dean Martin did some good movies by himself. But they were fresh ideas. Remakes have to be better than the originals. I think,
didn't you say something that what the studio said about when they were doing that remake of sorts? They said, you do it,
you're under contract, you're going to make this movie whether you like it or not.
Yeah, exactly. That's what...
And it's... And
That's
and
the attitude.
I don't think it made too much money because it wasn't a great movie.
That attitude I don't tolerate. I don't like it when a studio just goes ahead and says, you do this whether you like it or not. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a remake or otherwise.
Strange.
I don't tolerate that behaviour.
Yeah, but and the studios often make mistakes.
Exactly so.
They do. Big mistakes. And it costs money.
Yeah,
and they go, moan, we lost money. We'll try and fall flat.
And most of the stuff, I've noticed when there was a portrait in one of the scenes, and it.
Oh yes, on top stairs.
Which was used in Bob Hope, but then they changed the face on it to suit the latest
the new actress.
leading lady at the time. And I thought I prefer the old face on that lady's face. I mean, it just feels like a cheap copy,
but anyway,
carbon copy.
But Ghost Breakers is a good fun movie. We may or may not ever review that one. But
we'll think about it.
We'll think about it. But some of those old movies.
Yeah, I think you were remarking to me last night when we were watching Death Takes a Holiday. You were saying something about this film being a little bit in touch of the noir side. Yeah,
I mean, in some ways, it wasn't totally film noir, but had some. To me, it's in film noir started about a decade or so later.
Yeah.
But had that sort of feeling to me in some aspects. They worked good on light and light and dark.
Yeah.
When the creature came
That's
in
what I
the
like
doorway,
about
it was all in shadow and different things, and that was a style. But they didn't have the dark feel to it like the film noir did.
That's what I like about these old black and white movies. Shadows and light. Using the right concept. Can give it the mystery and the intense and the stuff that you need.
Do you remember back when you did your Attack of the Cat People?
Vaguely.
You're trying to do the same sort of lighting they did back in those days.
Yes.
They used 3-point lighting.
I do remember
Left,
that.
right, and rear. That was it. Even the dark shots were lit up quite nicely so you can see everything. It was very rare to have a movie filmed dark because you have a contrast problem with your blacks, whites, and varying shades of grey. Sometimes it gets a bit blurby. But when they filmed this one, I think they did quite well.
That's what I like about these old movies like film noir. You can... it has that mystery and intensness.
They had a dark storyline and dark filming style. Yeah.
You use the right music, right lighting, and it comes together. Yeah. A lot of people have asked me when I did Attack of the Cat People, why don't you put it in colour? But it may not have the same effect as...
It's supposed to be a tribute to the movies we've done in black and white.
It would not have the same effect. And if I did do it in colour, it would probably be like...
It would take away from it.
It would take it away from it.
But you look at that one that passed a few years ago now, The Whisper in the Dark. The Whisper in Darkness, that was done in the past 10 years, I think. That was done in black and white. And that was done off H.P. Lovecraft book, story.
Yes.
That was done in black and white. That worked well.
It did.
What was it? There was another movie we saw was in black and white. No, probably in my collection somewhere. But black and white is not to be shunned totally.
Not really.
If it works, it works. Yeah.
I mean, I've noticed a few movies out there, not old as time or going back to the 1930s, would often be shot in a black and white feeling now. I mean,
if you can't do it properly in colour, do it in black and white.
I think it was Ed Wood that Tim Burton movie. Yeah. They did it in black and white, and there was probably some other movies too that did a black and white thing to make the movie look appealing to,
and also period.
Yeah, to fit the period.
Yeah. That's what I mean. If it works, it works. So people got hung up on colour, or stereophonic, or surround sounds and Dolby sound. Let's get down to telling a damn fine story. And make people, give people some sort of enjoyment and pleasure. Not, how much money we can throw at this thing and how many effects we put into it.
One thing I hate about movies is criticism. Even though we do critique the movies, we
try to be nice about it.
Yeah, we try to be nice about it. But I don't like it when comes to a movie they throw a lot of
when people bag movies.
They bag the movie the crap out of it.
Yeah, and I hate that because some poor producer might have taken a bath on the movie.
Yeah, and
the poor director's credibility might have been shot to pieces.
Yeah, and the director himself has just been dragged into it, where even if he was kicking and screaming.
Yeah, and it's yeah.
I mean, like I said before,
it's hard if you make a movie and you put your heart and soul into it, and it becomes a lemon.
Yeah.
It must be very hard.
Like, for example, when I told you guys about how when they did The Village of the Damned, that one about the kids, and they did a remake on that, and and
was it Christopher Reeve in the second one?
What?
Who was in the second movie, the remake? Was that Christopher Reeve?
Christopher Reeves.
Yeah.
The director is practically kicking and screaming of not doing this project.
Yeah.
He didn't want to do it. He was forced into it.
And it can show up in the overall production.
Yeah.
But that's taken from different aspects. I'm talking about when they put the heart and soul on something.
Yeah.
And it dies in its bum. It must be very hard. So we try not to take the piss out of producers and directors.
It's not their fault, guys. Considering the fact they put their own other film project on hold to work on this project, and it's not their fault.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, you're missing what I'm saying.
I know.
People, a producer and a director who are on the same page and want to do it, still don't always have a resounding success on a movie. Sometimes they put everything into it, and it dies at the box office because it's not what the people want to see. That's what I'm talking about. And so we try not to bag them because it's hard and it's a thankless sort of job sometimes. And critics can be so cold and nasty.
True.
And the tabloids, as they talk about, Variety and the Times, and they take it to task too much.
I swear sometimes those reviewers are the ones back in the 1930s who never retired, who decided to make it their life's journey to criticize newer movies.
And make people's life miserable,
they think that it's not like Death Takes a Holiday or Dracula or Creature from Black Lagoon.
I don't like that sort of movie, I'm going to give it a really lousy rap. No.
It's not the attitude of a film reviewer. If you're not prepared to review the newest stuff, then you should not be a reviewer.
But we try to be fair, and if we find a movie doesn't grab us, we still try to look for some qualities in, like the
storyline, mystery,
a good direction,
character development. A lot of people keep
filming techniques.
I get a lot of comments on character development all the time, and no one even notices that there is character development in the script.
Yeah, sometimes people miss it because they want it handed up on a silver platter. Look, that is Fred Smith, and he is a taxi driver, and he lives at so-and-so street, and he has fish and chips for breakfast. You slide information in. If you watch the movie, you'll pick up on it.
Yeah, it's all about the gestures and the dialogue you hear.
Dialogue, you pick it up in the dialogue.
Or the expressions the actors portray in the roles sometimes. That appears. You just have to pick it up.
You take a case, The Murder on the Orient Express.
Got it. Go on.
They didn't have all the character development right at the beginning of the movie, did they?
Nope.
Bits and pieces came out during the movie, but more so when Poirot sat down there and started telling the people about what happened and who they were and why they did things. And you found out, and that guy was actually a criminal, and when one of the people was the nanny, and blah blah, and everything started to come out towards the end of the movie.
Yeah, and still,
and the beginning of the movie, you thought they were all independent people.
And all of them didn't knew each other.
Disassociated with each other, but they were actually together. Mm-hmm. So little things. So it depends on how the story's written, how much character development you really need, how much backstory do you need. Do you really need backstory in a Tom and Jerry cartoon? I shouldn't think so. Yeah, cat chases mouse. Mouse gets a hammer, hits cat in the head. There you go. Story finished.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have everything served up on a platter in front of you all the time.
Yeah.
There you go.
By the way, guys, just so you guys know, you probably heard when I was talking about in our last podcast about the upcoming Jurassic Park movie that's coming out. You've probably heard about it.
What was it called again? Jurassic Park?
Jurassic World.
Yep.
What's it called?
I don't know. You're talking.
This is called the third movie.
The third
movie.
And
it's coming out very soon, and we'll definitely. And it has.
We will do that one.
And the original cast: Sam Neill, Jeff Bloom, and
Goldblum.
Yeah, Goldblum.
And the lady,
Laura something.
Laura Dern.
Yeah, Dern. They're coming back to rephrase their roles in this one. I hope they punch the lady who made the dinosaurs.
Whatever. Yeah.
What?
The
It's her
the
fault.
point
Goodness
is,
gracious
I
me.
do like. Hang on, I do like Jurassic Park type movies. Yeah, Jurassic World. I like the way the computer generated dinosaurs look so damn lifelike. I mean, this one. So I don't mind CGI when it works.
Me too.
Or I've been watching a lot of sci-fi series on sci-fi channels or whatever, and the amount of that CGI stuff they're putting in these things here, it makes me feel like I'm actually in space or on a space station or somewhere rather I'm part of it because it's so damn good. And I've got to take my hat off these guys who are doing the CGI work.
Yeah.
It's getting better and better as the decades go by. They just the technology, the skill levels.
I'm only glad.
I'm wrapped.
I'm only glad that in this new Jurassic World, that in this movie, I'm glad the trailer doesn't reveal too much information.
Well, enough to get you enticed.
Yeah.
Ooh, that looks interesting. I'm going to watch that.
Yes, and I'm glad Chris Pratt and some of the original actors are reappearing.
And Blue's in it. He's little what's his Velociraptor person.
Yeah, I won't tell you.
Blue,
how.
she's a nice
I'm
girl.
still I'm trying to work that out in my head.
What's that?
How she was pregnant. She's the only raptor left.
Well, she might have found one. Friend.
She's the only raptor left. How's she going to get pregnant?
Oh, she could have been pregnant before.
Well.
Yeah, well,
Anyway,
artificial insemination.
okay, time for ratings, everyone.
This one, okay.
This movie, Death Takes a Holiday, yeah.
We go first. Oh, I'm having to say everything.
I think I'll give this movie a 9 out of 10. That's how. I mean, it's pretty good. I do think. I don't say there's room for improvement, but it is very, very interesting.
I would turn around and say I think when it was done, it was the best they could do, and I don't think doing a remake of it would actually make it any better.
Me neither.
So I think really you got to say, well, they gave it the best shot. It's a good movie. Tells a good story. The continuity is okay. The storyline's fine. The acting, again, a bit stagey, but that was the type of acting back then. So putting that aside, because that's what they were, I'm going to have to say 9.5. It's a good watch. So you guys who don't watch a lot of our movies, and you want to drop your feet, get your feet into it, this is a drama. Right, it is not an action or anything else. It's not a horror movie. It's a drama with a touch of horror thrown in the idea of death.
I admit. I mean, I agree with Mike. Mike, a lot of people have told me if to be a good director and a scriptwriter, it's always good to watch a lot of old movies.
Because these guys are the ones who start all, and people copy them.
Yeah.
They learn by how they did it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, how else we explain why so many present directors we look up to, we try to, take inspiration or take something away with it.
You aspire to be like George Lucas or Steven Spielberg or somebody else, one of the older guys. Yeah.
Some of those directors back in the 1930s, I don't recall their names.
We can't remember all the names, but you can remember what they did.
I mean, except for Cecil B. DeMille. I know him really well because I've seen several of his movies.
What about Todd Browning who did Dracula and stuff? He did a few movies back then.
I don't know I didn't know him till
No, but he did a few. He did Freaks and Dracula and other things.
I know. I just meant I'm not intimately detailed about his lifestyle.
Those guys' filming style wasn't that bad.
Yeah, I know that. I just mean I don't know his filming style like. You
haven't got it memorized.
I don't have it memorized. Unlike a lot of movie makers that are been an interest to me now, like John Carpenter, James Cameron, or Steven Spielberg, or George Lucas, Tim Burton. All those ones I've been really taking interest, especially when I started reading most of their biographies at the moment.
Yes, she's an avid reader, this one.
Yeah, I've been reading non-stop for the past... last year, I've been reading a lot of those books, and they have been a great influence, especially the information behind how they made the movies. Like, why is a character behavior like that instead of like you would probably think would be portrayed? I mean, a lot of people often keep saying, why did Indiana Jones jump on that van instead of hijack the instead of instead grab the van before the Germans got in.
It looked good.
Or it wouldn't be as exciting if he didn't crawl under the van to get back into the van. The truck again. I mean.
Okay, fine.
You
are digressing a little bit too far here.
Okay, I just think that sometimes these guys have great influences.
Yeah.
Although I don't like it when some person out there decides to overturn it by copying their work. I mean, not copying their work. I mean, I like remakes, and I like it when fans remake it because they're fans.
Oh, fan movies are a totally different thing altogether. I mean, Chris and Eric.
Yes.
Chris Strompoulos and Eric Zala did I'll say kids, a teenager's version of Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah. I'm okay with them doing this.
They did it over a couple of years in their spare time. They did a magnificent job, and also some of the other guys, other kids, and the older people who did their versions of it. I mean, fan films, they're nothing to be sneezed at because they've still got to put a lot of work into it, a lot of imagination, especially when they write their own scripts. Yeah,
and they do, in their own minds, they do the great continuation of those said stories. Yeah. Instead of the actual mainstream filmmakers who decide to forget certain things and decide to start from scratch.
We're really digressing. We're going from Death Takes Hollow to Indiana Jones
sorry, guys. Okay, guys, feel free to check it out. It's on Amazon.
Yeah, please.
And I don't know if it's on any mainstream things
actually,
on computers.
It could be somewhere, but I know it's on. You can get it through Amazon as rental.
Yeah,
you can buy it through Amazon, and you can buy it through eBay and probably lots of other places. But wait a minute, stop yaring. If you're looking for it, there's also VHS copies out there being an older movie. Make sure, if you're going to buy one, do not buy a VHS unless you've got a VHS player.
Yeah.
Ta-da. Now, what were we going to say, dear?
And be sure to check the date on them. You get
the right one.
Right one. It's 1934.
34, not the 1971 version. No.
Yeah, if you are looking for the old one, not the new one.
Yeah. And this is great. If you like old-style movies and prepared to take it as a drama, not a horror movie, it's good.
Yeah.
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 Cool.
So that's about it for us tonight. So thanks for listening to us, and I hope you guys enjoyed this latest podcast.
Well, I did.
Mm-hmm. So this is Sarah Stephenson.
And me, Michael. Yes.
Saying we'll see you guys for our next podcast, everyone. So bye for now.